Okay, now let's get into two-step equations. So the first thing is the same idea. We're going to find the variable first. So here's my variable. With two-step equations, I need to get rid of everything not touching the variable first. So what I do is I cover it with my hand, but since you can't see my hand on here, I'm just going to cover it with this black piece or this square. All right, so what I'm left with after I do that is I have a minus 8. The opposite of subtracting 8 is adding 8. Now I can take that off. Oops. Okay. So I would draw my line. Those go away. Drop down your 4x. 12 plus 8 is 20. Okay? So now I have 4 times x. The opposite of multiplying by 4 is dividing by 4. 20 divided by 4 is 5. Now remember, you can still check step it out. So I go back to my original. This time my solution supposedly is 5. So where I see the x, I'm going to plug in a 5. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 minus 8 is 12. Does 12 always equal 12? Yes. Okay, so I find my variable, and I'm going to cover up everything touching it. So in this case, I'm going to cover up this minus 2x, okay? So I'm left with 4. The opposite of a positive 4 is a negative 4, okay? So those are going to cancel. 10 minus 4 is 6. Drop down your negative 2x. Remember, you always have to take the sign in front. Now, the opposite of multiplying by a negative 2 is dividing by a negative 2. Those are going to cancel out. Drop down your x. 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3. We're going to check it out. I'm going to plug in this negative 3. So negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive 6. Drop down your 4. 4 plus 6 is 10, which is what I was supposed to get. So it works. Next one. Here's my variable. Okay, so I'm going to cover up everything touching it. And I'm left with 14. So the opposite of a positive 14 is a negative 14. Those are going to cancel. Negative 7 minus 14 is a negative 21. Let's get rid of this box so we can go ahead and drop down your negative 6x. That's negative 6 times x. The opposite of multiplying by negative 6 is dividing by negative 6. And honestly, off the top of my head, I don't know what negative 21 divided by negative 6 is. You may not have decimals in algebra. We have to have fractions. Therefore, you should directly go to your calculator. And you're going to put in negative 21 divided by negative 6. Well, Miss Beck, it's 3.5. I've already told you you cannot have decimals. So you need to go back to math, frac, 7/2. And that is my answer. Okay, next one. This is x minus 4 all over 7. If it's an all over 7, then the first thing that you need to do, so that's up there. So if it's an all over 7, I need to get rid of that large fraction bar. Okay, so to get rid of the all over 7, we have to start by multiplying by the denominator because we have to get rid of that complex fraction. So we would cancel the 7s out. The x minus 4 drops down. And a negative 11 times 7 is negative 77. And then I have x minus 4. The opposite of subtracting by 4 is adding by 4. X equals negative 73. Okay, and once again, you're going to check step all of these, but for time's sake, I'm not going to. Okay, here's our variable. It's on the right. It is what it is. And this time, if I cover up using my hand, that's what should cover up. So I'm left with a minus 11 on the other side. So I'm going to start by adding 11. Those cancel. Negative 18 plus 11 is a negative 7. And then now I'm going to drop down my x over 4. And then this is x divided by 4. The opposite of dividing by 4 is multiplying by 4. So those cancel. Drop down your x. 4 times negative 7 is negative 28. Using that symmetric property again. And check step it out again. All right, we got 2/3 x minus 1. Here's our variable. I'm going to cover up everything touching it. So I'm left with a minus 1. The opposite of subtracting 1 is adding 1. Oops. Those cancel. Ooh, no, I didn't want to do that. I'm going to get rid of this box. All right, so I drop down my 2/3 x. And negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. Remember, if it's a fraction, and so this is 2/3 times x, I take the reciprocal. I multiply both sides by the reciprocal, which is just flip-flopping my fraction. So those cancel. Drop down your x. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 divided by 2 is negative 6. Once again, just make sure, because sometimes fractions freak me out. I'm going to go ahead and put it in my calculator, so grab a calculator. I would have negative 4 times, what was it, 3 halves? 3 halves. Did I get negative 6? Yep, cool. Okay, let's find our variables. At first, this one looks really easy, but y'all, it is sneaky. The reason that it's sneaky is because you really need to put this 1 here, because that's not just x, that's a negative 1x. So same kind of thing, I cover up everything touching my variable. And this time I'm left with just straight up 4. So the opposite of 4 is a negative 4. 7 minus 4 is 3. And then I'm going to drop down the negative 1x. And then that's negative 1 times x. The opposite of multiplying by negative 1 is dividing by negative 1. Leaving me with 3 divided by negative 1, which is negative 3. All right, that's it. So those are all the different kinds of 2 steps that you could have.